Welcome to Phil Margo, the Lion Roars
Yes.
and he's roaring exclusively on MalcolmPresents.com. Good morning, Phil.
Good morning, Malcolm. How are you? I missed you.
Yeah, I know you were away in New York for 2 weeks.
Well,
Actually,
actually 9 days.
nine days, but we couldn't
And
catch you on the train. You took a train there.
my son, yes, my son invited me on an adventure. Solomon, my grandson, didn't want to fly, so we thought of driving because he had to be back in school at Fordham, and Noah thought of driving, and when he added it all up, financially, it was less expensive to take the train than to drive.
Really?
Yes, because when you add three people sleeping overnights, how many nights? It's not, it's going to take, 4 or 5 nights, whatever, 6 nights, and meals and all of that. When you added it all up, it was a little less to take the train. Plus, it was a 3-generation family adventure.
Yeah. Well, most people I know, when you're younger, you don't sleep over any place. You have 2, 3 drivers, and each take 8 hours a day, and go straight through.
Well, I never did that. When I drove to Florida, we drove in, it took us 2 or 3 days. We drove maybe 500 miles a day. Yeah. And sometimes when we drove, when the boys were born, and we went down to see the launches of Apollo 16 and 17, we took the car down to, I think, Virginia, and then we picked up a train which went down to Jacksonville, and then we continued driving. So we took the train, but the car was taken by the train. I don't know if they still do that, but it was really fun. But the only other time I was on a train was when I had to go to Washington, D.C. by train and back once. But I never traveled by train other than the BMT, or the Brighton Express, or or whatever.
RT, yeah, I know that story.
All of them. Oh, geez, yeah. And the Brighton Local, the Brighton Express. I knew all the stations. We used to. Well, anyway, I don't want to go off here. So anyway, Noah decided we're going to take the train, and so he booked the train. There were. It goes from LA to Chicago, then you change trains and you go from Chicago to Penn Station, right? But what he didn't realize is there's a whole bunch of stuff that came up that really is about travel. What he didn't realize was that the 2 trains that we booked the sleeping cars in were different. And the sleeping car from LA to Chicago had room for 4 beds, but 2 of them were adults and 2 of them were children. So I was sleeping on, both Noah and Solomon are, 5'10", 5'9", So I slept in a little mini spot.
Right, you're mini me.
Right, I'm not mini me, but it was less of me,
Less of me.
And it was okay. And the food was spectacular. I have a picture of my dinner. I don't know where they went, but it was chicken marsala. We ate every night like it was a cruise. I call it a cruise without volleyball, and it was just wonderful. The crew was great. They were just helpful all the way up and down. And we made a stop. We stopped in Albuquerque, and to get out. And when I got back to the train, I went for a walk. And I went back to the train. I saw a guy being held by the police, lying on the ground, face down, in handcuffs. At the station.
One of the passengers.
One of the passengers, right? And apparently he was a crook, a thief, and they arrested him. So that was interesting.
Was there a warrant out for his arrest?
No, I never got the story, but I think he was stealing or something. Yeah. At any rate, he got his ass kicked off the train.
And arrested.
And arrested. Oh yeah, the Albuquerque police were all around him. He was lying on the ground, face down. Don't move or I'll blow your brains out. And here's some of the interesting stuff. One, we were close to the front, to the engine. We were close to the front of the train where we stayed. So at every railroad crossing all across the country, every one, there must be thousands of them. The train has to toot, ba, 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 ba. That's the toot all night.
Night and day.
Night and day, and at every railroad crossing, which some of them, sometimes they were like, 2 blocks apart. You know what I mean? So you hear bam, 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 bam.
When you went to small towns.
It really was painful at night. It kind of woke you up. You got used to it after a while. Your brain kind of turned it off, but
You know, that reminds me of, in a way, when I lived in Coney Island, and on a foggy day, in the evening, and the tugboat goes, doo,
oh, sure.
doo, doo.
Yeah, but this is different. It's trying to sleep,
right.
And so that's one thing. The second thing is that when that Noah realized while we were traveling, that the train we had going from Chicago to Penn State to New York Penn Station, that car was different than the one we slept in, the one we took to Chicago. That car, sleeping car, only had room for 2 to sleep, right? And there were 3 of us.
Yeah.
We'll do the math. I mean, there was a little chair thing there, but that wasn't. And Noah had tried, to call and tell them, hey, this can't be. We have to have a place to sleep. And even when we got to Chicago, he talked to the people at the desk, and no one could do anything, right? So we get on the train, the New York train, the one going to Penn Station, which was 2 trains. One was a train that would leave in Albany and go to Boston, and then the other one would continue to New York. So the train was twice as long. And so he goes in, and he knows, I said, maybe you could talk to somebody on the train could help us, because they certainly couldn't help us at the offices, right? So we went out to talk to the conductor or porter, and he came back. He had a little smile. He said, the conductor, I think, or the porter said that, let them see who if anybody doesn't show up. Sometimes people cancel and don't show up. So the train starts, we wait for a while, the train starts, he goes back to talk to the guy, and he comes back smiling. I said, what happened? He said, we got the cabin right next to us, and it's a handicapped cabin, so it's big, it's bigger, and it has a bigger bathroom, and so essentially we had a living room and a bedroom, and it was perfect. And then we had, and so we the trip to New York was interesting, and then Noah realized that they have a stop at what's the stop along the way, along the Hudson River, Croton on the Hudson.
Croton on the Hudson, yeah.
Croton on the Hudson. And it was marked that there's a stop there. Well, Croton on the Hudson is 20 minutes from my sister's house in Chappaqua. So he went to talk to the conductor again. He said, look, if Phil can get off at that Croton on the Hudson, it would save him from going into the city, his sister from coming in to pick him up and take him back, they're 20 minutes away, right? So they were so helpful and wonderful in Amtrak. They really are. They said, okay, we'll work it out. So when we got close to Croton on the Hudson, I went to where I would exit, and the conductor came out and he opened the door. So now we're riding along and the door's open. It's like they're going to throw me out like mail.
Yeah. You thought you were in a movie.
And the train slowed down, and finally it stopped. I jumped out, and 2 seconds later the doors were closed and the train was rolling again. It was like I was like mail. It was so great. They handled it so, they were so helpful, and my sister only had to drive 20 minutes to pick me up.
You remind me of when I used to work on a merry-go-round. And go around, and when it slow up, I would jump off.
While it was going, you'd get off. I remember, sure. So so that was good. Then we found out as we were going to on the train to Chicago, we found out that our flights were changed, and instead of leaving at 12:45 on Wednesday. Our flight was changed to 10:45, which was really a pain because I was going to stay up in Chappaqua. Now I had to do a whole bunch different thing, and so I wound up staying at my nephew's house, Maxine's son, Elon. And it was terrific. I stayed there for 2 nights. It was just, we had a great time, the two of us. It was
Yeah,
just
Eon and your grandson are living close, 2 blocks apart, I hear.
yes. And I was going to get to that. So, and it was right around the corner from each other. So everything, but everything worked out great. We got, we had this dinner plan with people from our family and all our friends, in New York, and we didn't know if it would happen. It was raining all day, but this is on Monday. But it stopped raining, and the weather cleared, and we had our dinner Monday night, which was really cool. So I got to see everybody I wanted to see. I missed one person who wasn't feeling well, so I couldn't see them. But I got to see everybody I wanted to see. And now we find out that not only did they change the aircraft that was flying back to LA, and the aircraft was different, and they changed our seats. And instead of sitting next to each other on 2 seats, up in the right-hand side of the plane, they gave us 1 seat on each side of the middle row. So I was sitting on one aisle, and he was sitting on the other, and that's not what we bought, So again, Noah, who being a politician and knowing how to get votes, and he knows how to talk to people like I don't. You know what I mean? I don't. You don't send me out to do anything like that. So he goes up. We get to the airline, and the woman who takes care of it came in. It was an hour before the flight, and I see him talking to her, and she's shaking her, and he's shaking his head, and whatever. He comes back. He says she's going to see what she could do. Okay, because she realized we had the special comfort zone thing, seating, and this was none of that what they gave us. And she ultimately got the seats that we were supposed to have, took us into the airplane to make sure we got them, made sure we had place to put our stuff, I mean, she walked us in ahead of everybody else,
That was good.
She was just terrific. Delta really came through, So I want to do a shout out to them. That lady who was working at Kennedy at a 10:45 flight out of Kennedy to LA on what was on the 25th. We didn't get her name, but wherever you are, we love you. Thank you. And the trip was, and the other thing about traveling by train, it's constant turbulence. It's like being in an airplane that's always going over bumps because it's always moving, and it goes over the tracks where the tracks are connected, and so you're always, if you're sleeping perpendicular to the track, in other words, laying perpendicular to the direction,
which you are sleeping,
and the train stops short, you'll fly off the bed. So you have to strap yourself in the bed. If you're parallel to the tracks, you're okay, because you're not going to go anywhere. So you learn that, But if you're perpendicular, it kind of rocks you to sleep,
Well, it reminds me of when I used to do the subway. And the subway, as you know, you're always shaking back and forth with the turns.
Yeah, but the subway is smooth compared to an Amtrak.
Oh, really?
Amtrak, yeah.
Well, I want to ask you, with the Amtrak, you went directly from LA to Chicago, right?
Well, we stopped in Colorado. We stopped in
Oh, yeah, but you didn't have to detrain.
No, we only detrained when we got to Chicago.
Right. And now, did they take the luggage off for you and transfer it? Or okay, so you didn't have to bother with the luggage.
They move it. No, the stuff that we sent some stuff through because Solomon was going back to school, so we had a bunch of stuff. The stuff we carried on board, you know what I mean, that we didn't send through baggage, that we had to take when we got to Chicago. We brought it to the lounge, the Amtrak lounge at the Chicago station, and and it stayed there. We put it in a room. They have a room reserved to put it where it's watched, you know.
Yeah. So
And then when we wandered around town, we took pictures, which I can't find now. And when we went back on the train, we brought it back on the train with us to our new train. You know,
how long a stopover was it?
about 6-7 hours.
Oh, that's not, well, actually, it's good if
So
you
we
have friends in Chicago.
I had a chance to. We took a picture. I took a picture standing under by the Sears Tower, you know, which is not called the Sears Tower anymore. And then we took a
What's it
picture
called? Do you remember?
Miller's Tower or something, Mills Tower, and everybody still calls it,
Sears Tower, yeah.
formerly referred to as the Sears Tower, you know. And then we went to that canal that you see, and all the pictures are taken where those bridges are, that people stand on the bridges, and you know, it was in Ferris Bueller and everything. You know,
It's called Venice.
and well, it's not Venice. It's
I
Chicago.
know.
So it's so Chicago. You could see it's very famous. I have it in somewhere. And then I had me eating a deep dish pizza, which is Chicago is famous for, which is really great.
What you say? What is deep dish? Is that what we call Sicilian pizza?
Well, I don't know, but it's this thick.
Yeah.
Okay. And you eat, and you have, and it's very hard to pick up until it gets a little. When it's still hot, you can't really pick it up. And
Is it a triangle or a square?
No, it's a try. It comes in.
Huh.
You know, it comes in. They serve a pizza. It takes much longer to bake. It takes about 45 minutes to bake. You have to be patient, but it was delicious. I really enjoyed it. It was very good. It was a big treat. And then we got back on the train and off we went. You know, we fixed our sleeping arrangements, and I got off at you know, Croton on the Hudson, and Noah and Solomon went through to Penn Station.
And Max picked you
We had a
up.
great time. It was a great time together. It really was. It was like a special adventure. So that's essentially it. I mean, my wife asked me if I would do it again, and I said yes, I would. You know, I would. But now I would do it a little differently. I would try to get a car that was further back from the engine.
Mhm.
You know, I would make sure that what the sleeping car was, that it was enough for as many people as we had, you know, so that there's no mess ups and things like that. You know, things slip through the cracks sometimes. But I'll tell you, the food was just wonderful. It really was.
And did they serve you breakfast, lunch, and dinner?
Yes. And they said, the people on duty in the dining car said, if you're hungry during the day, you want anything, just come right by. We'll take care of you. You know, they're so. I mean, it's not like being on an airplane where they sell you terrible food, you know, and they treat you like crap. I mean, they really do. You know, we used to, when we first started flying, we used to have food on China. They served us food on China. Now it's like, you know, here's some. You know.
Well, I've had that when I flew first class, but
Yeah,
never on.
First class. This was coach. You flew on coach. They treated you like you're first class. The seats were wide enough. Your knees didn't hit. Look, I'm 5'5". You know, my knees hit the seat in front of me. What do tall people do?
Fly first class or business class?
Yeah,
but that's expensive.
It stinks. There are so many things that stink that used to be so great about this country that really stink. And it's true. We know that things tend to stink from the top down, but now they stink from the bottom up. Mm. You know, they charge for shit they shouldn't charge. Excuse me. They charge for stuff they shouldn't charge for. There's words fees, that everything is a fee. It's crazy.
Yeah, my wife is going to El Salvador. I don't know whether I'm going with her or not. Basically, my family. I don't feel like flying, but everything is extra. You're allowed. Yes. You're allowed. If you want something in the luggage compartment, you have to pay extra for that.
Now, where is this?
From LAX to El Salvador.
Oh.
In Central America.
Oh well, I know. It's horrible.
You're allowed one bag aboard with you that they don't charge you. You know, that you can put in the compartment of the seat, but it's a small bag.
you don't have to tell me. Those are the most venomous words that the American corporations have ever come up with is fees.
Fees.
The word fee is a dirty word. It really is. And then and the same thing with, if you have cable and you have this, everything, every time you try to get something, it's, oh, this is $9.99. Well,
Right.
why do I bother? Go away from me. I mean, it's like nothing is worth it anymore.
Well, I have all the
Every
hookups.
single bill, I don't need to get into this, but when you get a bill from the water company or the gas company, electric company, it includes a thing how they're going to the PUC to raise the rates every month. Every month they're trying to raise the rates every month, and the PUC lays down. It's pathetic. It's really, I don't know what they expect people to do when they take everything away from us. What are they going to be left with? I don't know. And who are they going to sell it to? Are there aliens that want to buy this planet from the wealthy? Is that what it is? Are we on a chopping block in space that aliens want to buy this planet and all the wealthy people know it and they're just trying to get everything together so they could be galactic wealthy millionaires? I mean, what is it?
Well, that's my new theory. My new theory is, which I'm developing now, so don't hold me to it right now, is that the planet's going to be taken over by aliens. That all of these UFOs that had been sighted by the Air Force and pilots were actually UFOs, and the aliens had been transported down here, and they are taking over because you have all this, nonsense was happening.
I don't think
It has
I
to be
don't think,
aliens.
excuse me, I don't think it's aliens. I think it's just assholes.
No,
I
it's
think I think practically the whole right wing are subhuman. They're subhuman. This guy gets on yesterday and he says, McCarthy. He says, if the Democrats do anything, they'll be held to pay when we take over. He's an asshole. That's not what's happened. You're supposed to root for the people. You are working for the people, and you're conning them to make them believe anything else.
well. The problem is, which I find, is that who's in power, who's ever in power, the opposing side wants the U.S. to fail. So
yes, why?
Either side. If it's Republicans in power, the Democrats are rooting for to have for them to fail. If the
no, they're not. No, they're not.
Everybody, nobody is saying, okay, it's wrong, let's do this.
No, there are two people. There are two people that I point to, and that I despise. Yeah. Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema. They have it in their power to get rid of all this crap. Bam, just like that. Fix voting rights, fix voting laws, get the infrastructure done, fix all the things that these people have been taking away since Reagan was president. Okay, and they're not.
But Phil, let's get back to what we were going to talk about.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I
didn't watch the news. I didn't watch the news this whole time. I hardly watch the news anymore. But then you see stuff like that they'll be held to pay if you guys do anything. It's illegal. What's illegal?
But Phil, you're a New Yorker. How did you find New York? You haven't been back for a while.
I went to the Ben's Deli on 38th Street. I had a delightful breakfast on a I forgot what it was called now, but it was terrific. I like walking in the city still. I walked from where I was staying, which was on 57th and 8th, down to 34th to Penn Station, and I went in, and Nathan's isn't there anymore. So that was a heartbreak. No more Nathan's at Penn Station. So, but I took a nice long walk, and it was marvelous. I took a nice long walk in Chicago too. It was really nice. I mean, I'm glad I went. I don't regret it for 1 second. And
did you get to Nathan's in Coney Island?
No, we couldn't. It was the hurricane, really.
Oh.
We wanted to go on Saturday, and there was just, the roads were screwed up. So, but there was a Nathan's in Yonkers that we went to.
Yeah, but to me, there's no Nathans like the Nathans in Coney Island. I remember there was a
Well, it's
Nathan's,
better, yeah, but
and,
whatever Nathan there is better than no Nathans at
yeah,
all.
there was Nathan's on, I think 46th or 47th Street in Times Square.
Yeah,
When I was there,
went there
I never
because
liked it.
the one in Penn Station was good, but now it's gone. And I don't know, but the trip was marvelous. I had a great time, and we did our job. Solomon is back at school, and you know, I don't know. I just was a
Yeah,
little frightened of the trip. You know what I mean? Being on a train with people and all of that
yeah.
stuff. You had to wear your mask all the time practically. But
Was
hard on the
everybody?
plane. But I did
Were,
bring
were,
my
were people masked on the street? New York?
well,
Yeah.
in and out.
Mm. Now you're freezing a bit. Getting
What?
back, were people masked
I'm
on the
losing
street?
you. Yeah, well, for what I have to wear it when I go inside the club, or when we go inside anywhere, we have to wear it. I think we're getting lost here. Are you just
Yeah, I'm losing you in the. For some reason, you're freezing, and I hear every other word. But hey, listen, I think maybe, well,
well,
maybe it's our broadcast, but I was listening to the president's speech on MSNBC on NBC, and at the end of it, he phased out. Can you
know
hear me?
what? I think this country is going to fade out.
Mhm.
I really do. I feel I have great fears, but I had a great time, and I'm going to continue to have a great time until someone stops me.
Yeah, who'd you visit in New York aside from Maxine, your sister?
Well, I saw cousins of mine that I hadn't seen in a while, and my friend Ira, who who taught at music, who was the principal of music and art in Manhattan, and then he and his wife taught in NYU for years. You know, he was the person who, his name is Ira Shankman. He was the one who inspired me to learn piano,
Mhm.
just by playing, by watching him, and he became a tremendous cog in the choral, worldwide choral. He would travel all over the world with the chorus from NYU, and his wife Nancy. They're brilliant and wonderful people. So I got a chance to see them.
Did you see Jay Leslie?
Yes, I did. We had breakfast. We had breakfast with Jay Leslie, which was delightful.
And he was a part of the Tokens,
Yes,
not the original.
we talked about performing again, but I mean, if it comes up, it comes up. Somebody inquired about it. Noah was talking to them. We'll see. But I'm not against it. It's just that, this pandemic threw an explosion into a lot of stuff.
Threw everybody off.
Yeah, I mean, sure, when you're a big star and you need to rebook Madison Square Garden is one thing, but for people like us who are around the perimeter, it's hard.
Well, I still think that you could do a good college tour. I think the colleges are ready for you.
It's not the colleges that have to be ready. It's the people who book them.
Yeah, but that's what I mean.
They call us up and say, "Would you do a college?" I have a perfect thing to do to college. I would go to a college, do a class on the music from that era. I would do a whole class. I mean, I could teach a class. I could teach a class on music altogether, but I would go to a college, do a class, demonstrate the music, show how we changed it, what we did to add to it. When we started, the Grammys were not even being televised. We were nominated for a Grammy in 1961. We weren't even invited to the Grammys.
I'm saying, did they have television back then?
And in the 10 years that we were in the business together, the Grammys became a big deal.
Mhm.
And they didn't care so much that they never sent us our Grammy nomination until 35 years later.
But you got it.
Yeah, we finally got it. It's up on the wall. But
And anyway, Phil, do you realize our half hour is up?
okay, well, see that? Everybody, it's a pleasure to be back. I hope you enjoyed.
And
And
anyway,
especially hello to my cousin Jeff. I haven't been able to get a hold of him, but
oh, okay. Yeah, I've been trying to get a hold of him also.
yeah, I there's something amiss.
Yeah.
I hope he's all
But,
right.
but anyway, we'll be on next week, which I think will be the day after Rosh Hashanah. But
Okay.
for
Well,
everybody out there that listens to us next week, I think it's going to be Monday and Tuesday.
all
I'm
right,
not sure.
do it whenever we think.
But anyway, to my audience out there and to you, Lashana Tova, Happy New Year.
We're going.
Bye.